Hi guys, welcome back to another interesting tutorial. This is Ajulam here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, you're welcome. Consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on the bell icon so that I get to know anytime I post new videos. So for today, we are going to be learning how to make this flower girl dress. I'm going to show you how I created this design. So if you're interested, let's get started. Alright, here are the things I'll be using for this project. I have my 1 yard of satin here, and this is my net. I am working with 7 yards of net, and I have my 1 yard of cotton lining. Okay, so for this one, I will not be adding any hard net. I will just make it as it is. So I'm going to keep this aside, and I'm going to take the basic bodice which I have here. This is for a 2-year-old, and this is the back, the pattern. I'll be making the back a curvy V neckline. That is for the back. If you don't know how to draft a basic bodice, I have a detailed video on how to draft a basic bodice. I'm going to drop the link in the description box so you can check that out. So I'm going to take the front one, which is where I'll be making some markings. That is where I'll be adding the ruffles, and here I have the front. So I'll just go ahead now and fold it into two to get the center point. Now from this neckline, I am going to turn it and let it touch this waistline. Okay, like this. Now you can see that the waistline is touching the neck point here. Then I'm going to fold it again into two. This is to enable me get the center point. That is where I'm going to start marking out the ruffles. So this is it. I'm going to open it up now, and then this is the center point. So I'm going to notch that place. So this is the center point right there. I hope you can see this very well. Alright, so this is the center point. Excuse me, I'm going to mark out 1/2 inch all round. Okay, here you can decide to start from anywhere. You can decide to start from this line or this or this or the other one. Okay, so I'm going to start from this up line, this line that passed through the neckline, and then I'm going to mark 1/2 inch. Okay, now this is 1/2 inch. I'll just connect that straight. So I'll just connect it now straight to that center point like this. I hope you can see what I am doing. Alright, then I'm going to continue now and mark out. I'll follow that method. You know, I'm trying to create a spiral effect here. I'm going to take it round one after the other. So this is the first 1/2 yard. So I'll place my tape again on this other second line to get the other 1/2 inch, and then we are going to connect to the first one like this. Okay, and then I'll place it again on this other line and get the 1/2 inch, and then I will just connect it. This is how we are going to take it all round, and then I will come to this side again, and this is the 1/2 inch. All right, so getting down to this other part, now you can see that if I follow it this way, it's going to turn to a circle. All right, so all I'm going to do now is to place my tape on this first one, this first notch here, and then mark out the 1/2 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to connect it to this one. Okay, so this is how I'll be taking it, and then I'll place my tape following this line now, and I'm going to be marking out 1/2 inch all the way around until I exhaust all that I have on this part. So I'm going to move it that way. All right, so I'm just using this paper to show you what I'm trying to create. After doing this, I will transfer everything to my fabric before sewing my ruffles on it. So I'll continue that way. Now you can see that I'm placing my tape now on this line, not the center point. So I'll just keep moving like that. So for this part, you can also decide to make it a 1/4 inch, to mark 1/4 inch. I am using 1/2 inch. Okay, so you can decide to also use 1/4 inch and it's still okay. All right, so continue like that. As you're going, just place your tape on the next line there and connect. So I'm going to continue now until I get to where I want it to be. All right. All right, this is where we are so far. As you can see, this is where I just stopped. Now the next thing to do is to note how many inches you want to use as your neckline sewing allowance. So I normally use 1/4 inch. I am going to mark that all round. This is going to give me a guide where I want my ruffles to end. All right, so this is my neckline sewing allowance. Okay, and then I'm going to take it down this side again. So after noting your neckline sewing allowance, you're going to mark out your waist sewing allowance also. So for the waist, I use 1/2 inch. So this is 1/2 inch there. So you need to take note of this so that at the end of the day, you will not have any issues while joining the dress to the skirt part. So this is the skirt, this is the waist sewing allowance, and this is my neckline. Now you can see that here I will not be marking out again, because if I mark, it's going to be exactly on the neckline, which is not good. So I'll be ending this part here. So what I'm going to do now is to connect this line to any point from this side. All right, any point that is within this armhole side. So all I'm going to do is to keep going. Okay, and on this point here, let's say from this center line is just 1 inch. From there I will be joining it. I will join it back to that place so that it will not get to the neck line. So I'll just move it that way, as you can see, and then connect. So this is what I want to have on this part. Now you can see that we still have spaces here. At the end of the day, I want my ruffles to cover up all this front side. Aside from this shoulder side, I want my ruffles to cover up everything. All right, so all I'm going to do now for this side again, I'll be ending it here as well. For this waistline, you can see that the next one is going to sit exactly on the waistline, which is not good. So here and the neckline, the waist and the neckline, I will not mark again. So all I'm going to do now is to keep on moving my the markings. All right, so I'm going to do the same way I did here. I'll just mark out 1 inch again, and from there now I'll keep on marking the 1/2 inch. Okay, and on this waist again, remember, I'll mark 1 inch again. This is where I will just connect my 1/2 inch and let it join back to this line here without getting to the waistline. The same thing on this neck side. I hope you understand. So you just move it. By the time we sew in all the ruffles, you will see that it will turn out very nice. So I'll just gently blend it back to the line. So I'll keep on going like that until I cover up all I have. When you when you get to this point now, the next one, from that point you mark your 1 inch again. That is where you'll be blending the second one in. All right, so this is the first one. So from there I'll mark out the next one from here. So I'll just continue like that until I get to the armhole part. Now for the armhole part, make sure to mark out your 1/4 inch. That is what I use to sew in on the armhole part. So this is my 1/4 inch. I'm going to connect it. This is going to guide me on where my ruffle should end, so that it will not be a problem. All right, so this is the 1/4 inch. Now as I am marking, you need to consider so that you don't mark exactly on this armhole line. I hope this part is clear. As we proceed, you understand better. So I'll keep on going now. Like I said, this is 1/2 inch, this is 1/2 inch, and then I'll end it on this part. So I'll just move it now this way, connect, then blend it back to that point. Okay, so we just keep on moving until we cover up all the spaces here. All right, this is where we are so far, and as you can see, I've covered it up very nicely. By the time we attach the ruffles, there will be no space on this front side. So I just transferred all that markings to my net. I know you can see that. That is why I decided to use my paper to show you. So I just transfer exactly as it is here on my net. Okay, so I'll be using this same net too as the interlining. All right, but as we proceed, I'm going to show you how to cut this other side that should be closed. So guys, our online classes are coming up very soon. So if you're interested in any of them, please check the description box for a number to reach out for more details on the classes. All right, so I'm going to keep this aside. Now you decide how many inches you want to use as each of your ruffles. So I'll be making it 2 inches because I don't want it to be that bulky at the end of the day. So I'm going to cut out 2 inches, as many as I can. Here I have 2 yards. I just cut out 2 yards from my net, and I folded it for easy cutting. So I'll go ahead and cut out 2 inches that I'll be using for my ruffles. All right, I just cut off this edge. I don't want it to be showing. So I'll go ahead and mark out 2 inches, as many as I can. After marking it out, I'm going to be sewing it at the center. Okay, so I'm going to sew at the center. This is where you need to do a little work because it will take you a little time if you're making it alone, except you have someone to help you out. So I'll just continue and then I'll cut them out. After cutting them out, I'm going to open it up and use my gather stitch to sew it at the middle. So I'll just open it up this way, and then I'm going to use my gather stitch and run it all the way down to the other end, but it's going to be on this center line. So let me just quickly cut them all out so we can finish up. Okay guys, this is what I have after sewing them all. As you can see, I used my ruffle, I used my gather stitch and sew in between. I hope you can see this, in between all down, and then you need to gather it to give you this. So I'm going to take the front now. This is where you need to, be patient with it because you don't need to rush this part. So you need to take your time so that you get it right. I'm going to start from that center point, and then I'll place this. Before placing it, I'll just fold it in and then place it there. then you're going to sew following that line. And as you're sewing, remember that you'll be sewing on that center line. So I'll keep on moving it as I am sewing it. I'll keep on rotating it, following the line that we marked. Okay, just like that. You keep on going at the center until I'll cover up all the lines. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and show you how to do this part. This is the So this is where we are so far, and as you can see, I just finished sewing it all round, and I use the part that is the lining to join with the neck so that it will not be a struggle for me when I get to this point. So that is just what I did. So at this point I am going to trim it. I'm going to trim it so that it will be very nice. I will not leave it this way because some, as you can see, some part is longer, so I need to trim it so that I'll have it the way I want it to be. All right, so I'm going to trim it up from this part. So when you're trimming, you make sure you take your time so that you don't end up spoiling the work. Okay, so I'll just trim. So after trimming now, I am going to keep this aside so we can cut the skirt part. Going to trim this off. Okay, for the trimming part you can also do that after joining the skirt part. Okay, so I'm going to keep this aside. When I'm through with the dress, I'm going to do the necessary trimming. So this is what it looks. That is the front. This is how it's going to be. So I'm going to take my satin now. I'm going to be using the 180-degree method to cut out my satin, and then I'm going to open up my net. Here I have 5 yards. I used 2 yards for this upper side. I used 2 yards of my net, and here is the remaining 5 yards. I'm going to fold it now for easy cutting, and then I'll cut the first one that is going to sit exactly on the waist, which is going to be 15.5, because the skirt length is 15 inches plus the waist sewing allowance, making it 15.5 inches. I'll cut that out first, 15.5. I'll cut it out in 2 pieces. Okay, then whatever I have left, I'm going to be using it to make layers on my satin. So if you're a returning subscriber, you should know how to go about making layers on your satin. I have a lot of videos on that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut this out, then make all the markings on my satin so we can finish up the dress. Remember that whatever way or whichever way you cut your satin, that is how you're going to be cutting on your lining. Okay, if you also want to add hard net, it's still okay, but for this I will not be adding any hard net because I'm trying to avoid this dress from having a lot of weight. Okay, but if you don't mind, you can also half yard to 1 yard of hard net is okay. You can attach that on your lining. All right, so let me quickly fold my net for easy cutting and cut, and then cut out the satin so we can finish up. Alright, here I have the upper part ready. As you can see, this is how it looks, and it's looking so beautiful. This is the back. I decided to attach a little satin on this part so that it will not disturb the baby. You know, most times children tend to complain about this net itching them, so I don't want to use the net all through as my lining, so I decided to add this satin to it. So all I did was just to use my back pattern and cut it out, and then join the shoulders together, sew the neckline and then the armhole, then you turn it inside out. So it's as easy as that. And here I have the down part. This is what I have. Like I said, I use, after cutting out the length that I want to use for this part, I cut 2 pieces of it. This is what I have. So what I have here is 2 pieces. Now the remaining of my net is what I use to make these 3 layers here. As you can see, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. I just attach that and use it as layers inside. This way is going to make the dress to, you know, stand out nicely without you adding any hard net. If you want it to be more fluffy than this, all you need to do is, like, instead of using 3 layers, you can make yours 5 or 6, and the dress will really pop out nicely. So I'm going to go ahead now and close the sides together. That is the bodice. I'm going to turn it over this way, close the sides together, and then join this skirt part. Now for the lining, remember I said that you should cut out your lining same way you cut out your satin. So I'm going to use same method that I used to cut out my satin to cut out the lining, and then I'm going to join it and show you the final look of this beautiful dress. Alright guys, this is what I have after joining everything. As you can see, the dress is already popping. The ruffles at the front is already looking so beautiful. All that I'm going to do now is to trim it a little bit so that it's going to reduce small. And as you can see that the lower part is already fluffy even without adding hardness. So this is how to go about making this beautiful dress. All right, so that is it for today. Please subscribe if you have not, and I will see you all soon.